And welcome into the Farzy Show. Good morning, everybody. Here from the Steven Singer Studios, Marc Farzetta with you. As per usual, so much to get to. Today's guest to help us talk about them 10-9-8 76ers, Tom Moore, will join the program coming up in about 15, 20 minutes or so. But I just want to let everybody know, if you're going to be listening to the show, if you're going to be watching the show, most notably, make sure you bring this kind of energy, please. We need this kind of Joel Embiid, big, heavy, Flava Flav type necklace, although it's not a clock, but you get the idea. We need that kind of energy on today's show because we're going to enjoy talking about the Sixers. We're not so much going to enjoy talking about the Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to enjoy talking about Devontae Smith running routes and looking precise and exactly what Nick Sirianni had to say about his new toy, if you will, in the Eagles offense. We're going to have fun talking about Devontae Smith. We're not going to have so much fun talking about the Phillies bats on Saturday and the Phillies arms so much on Sunday. So that'll be today's show, basically. In a nutshell, that's what it'll be. But let's start it off with the 76ers. And like I said, we're going to talk more about the Sixers with Tom Moore coming up in just a moment. Look, they clinched the number one seed. They are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. They are the number one spot for the first time in 20 years. That feels good to say. That I bet them at minus 15 going into that game against Orlando on Friday. So I'll be talking about that more a little bit in the Big Bets segment. But after this little play-in tournament, the 76ers are going to be taking on either the Pacers are a team that they could possibly play. The Hornets team they could possibly play. Or they could be playing the Wizards, a team they could possibly play. And then finally, they could be, although I doubt it because, man, they are terrible right now, the Boston Celtics in the first round of the playoffs. I'd love to see it, but Boston would have to survive the Wizards. I don't see them doing that for that even to have a chance at happening. But after the play-in tournament, Sixers are going to take on those four teams that I mentioned. I want them. It's weird for me. The playoffs for me, and the team themselves can't have this vibe. The playoffs for me start in the second round because I'm going to be one round behind everybody because I just really want to see them advance past the second round of the postseason. Something we haven't seen them do in those 20 years since Allen Iverson was playing for the Sixers. That's really when everything starts for me because it won't be real until that point. It won't be real until they have the opportunity to get past the point where they haven't been in the last 20 years. We could go through the history real quick. They lost to the Celtics in the second round with the Andre Iguodala Sixers. They obviously lost to the Boston Celtics a couple of years ago in doing that. They also lost to most recently, they lost to the Toronto Raptors in doing that. So for me, it's all about getting past that second round of the playoffs. That's when it really begins for me because really it's Eastern Conference Finals or bust for this Sixers season. Doc Rivers was asked about from Marc Narducci of the Inquirer, was asked about how his team can ignore the hype. Like there's a lot of hype surrounding the number one seed right now. So over this week off, and that's what they're going to have while this play-in tournament happens. They're going to have a week off, basically. They're not going to be back in action until Saturday. With this week off, how are they going to attempt to ignore or control all the hype and praise that is going to be lobbed their way over the next week while this play-in tournament happens? Marc Narducci of Inquirer.com asked Doc Rivers how they're going to do that throughout the next throughout the next 7 days.
Don't listen. We've done nothing, Mark. We've had a great regular season. Everyone starts 0-0 now. The West is wide open and the East is wide open, the way I look at it. And, because of last year and teams that stayed in the bubble longer and all that, this is a huge accomplishment. But this is the first one. We can't rest on this. We got to get ready. Now, we're going to play a tough opponent in the first round. I don't know who it's going to be, but they're going to be ready. They're going to be playoff tested already. Whoever it is, they would have played up to 3 games already. And so we would have had a week off. So we have to be ready out of the box.
I couldn't agree more. but it's going to be a lot easier said than done when it comes to ignoring that hype. And that's what Doc Rivers is saying about his team. They have to ignore all that hype that goes into being the number one seed in the Eastern Conference because you're going to get caught off guard. And it happened. We saw it against the Brooklyn Nets a couple of years ago. Not that the Sixers were the number one seed at that point, but everyone expected the Sixers to blow by the Nets. Nets ended up giving them a run for their money, give a little bit of a scare, and Brett Brown had to do a little halftime speech, or a little post-game speech, I should say, where he tried to shake things up a little bit with this roster, and it certainly worked for the Sixers. But you got to make sure that these guys are mentally prepared because they're one of their biggest enemies going into the playoffs could be themselves. If they buy into that hype, if they take things for granted, things might slip through their fingers. I doubt that happens, and I hate to even address it, but it's just that I'm so hyped up for what could happen in the second round and what could really happen for this team and how good this Sixers team is. And I've talked at length about how enjoyable this team is, how exciting they are to watch, how really it's the most exciting team you've had since the Iverson era. I mean, forget about just the success that you can look at a record, right? And you can look at the stats and all that, and having an MVP candidate, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, maybe even a Coach of the Year candidate, all that. Even an Executive of the Year candidate, Daryl Morey, all of that you look at, it could all just slip through your fingers. Excuse me. It's just something that you could be so excited about for the first time since they really did win all those awards, including the Sixth Man of the Year with Aaron McKee back 20 years ago. So I just can't wait for it to happen. Can't wait for everything to get underway. And really, it's going to feel like, man, throughout the season, I talked about how when the Sixers had more than 2 days off, it felt like a long, long layoff. It just felt like it was forever because you were so excited to watch the next game. And just imagine how we'll feel come playoff time. So Joel Embiid and the rest of the starters didn't play at all yesterday, but who did play for the Sixers yesterday was Tyrese Maxey. And Tyrese Maxey, it has no bearing on the playoff rotation. I believe at this point that is set. All that was last night, all that was you get guys getting run and guys getting a break. That was your starting five getting a break and other guys just getting their legs back under them. But I'll say this. If you're going to watch Tyrese Maxey play like 30 minutes of basketball and he scores 30 points, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy that. Every ounce of it and what it could mean going forward, because you'd rather see that than he scored 10 points, for instance, right, and all the time that he got yesterday. So this is what I enjoyed. After the game, Tyrese Maxey was asked about what his role will be in the playoffs. And for this rookie first-round pick, there is not a better answer he could have given than this one.
I think my role is to always stay ready and always, just do whatever it takes to win the game. If coach puts me in, asks me to play defense on somebody, or asks me to get to the rack, or asks me to, facilitate for my teammates, and that's what I'm gonna do. So, and if not, I'll be the biggest cheerleader. I'll do whatever it takes for us to win. So, that's all I had to say. That.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tyrese Maxey got some run in the playoffs, and not just when it's a 20-point game where the Sixers, they're out of it or they're very much in it and they just want to get some guys some playoff experience. But he can provide in those games where you don't have that offensive spark. Maybe he's a guy that comes in towards the end of a second quarter, and he gets a little bit of run, a couple of minutes, just to see if he can give you a little bit of that spark. I wouldn't be surprised. Guys that we don't expect to be in the game in a playoff game are going to get run in this postseason. It always happens. So it wouldn't shock me. It's not something I'm necessarily rooting for. I'm sure I'm rooting for the Sixers to be up 20 points in the fourth quarter. Then Tyrese Maxey plays the final 2 minutes of that game. Sure. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Sixers were lacking some fluidity to their offense at some point in this playoff run, where Doc Rivers just says, all right, kid, get in there, be a spark, / get to the rim and all that. And that's one thing that I did notice about his game, and Doc Rivers was asked about it after the game, what Tyrese Maxey has done different from the start of the season till now. And it's just being more aggressive. If he's going to attack the rim, he's going to attack it with aggression. He's not going to go in there just looking to throw up a floater. He's going to go to the rim, looking to dunk, looking to get a layup, looking to get fouled, looking to go to the line, using his speed, as Doc Rivers said post-game, to create for other players as well. So on that note, just a great little game there, great end of the season game for the rookie Tyrese Maxey. So I love seeing that. Sixers, like I said, looks like they're going to be back in action on Saturday. Personally, I want to see the Celtics just so they could blow the Celtics out of the playoffs. Pacers did not end the season so great. Somehow, magically, they ended up making the playoffs. The Wizards, for me, I think would be a very entertaining matchup. Very entertaining matchup. We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up in our morning rush. And like I said, we'll ask Tom more about that in a second. All right, well, that was fun. Talking Sixers basketball, right? That was fun. One more time, maybe. A little Joel Embiid love. That's fun. That's enjoyable. That's a guy who loves to play the game. Well, here's where we're at. There he is. Nice to see you, JoJo. The Phillies were not enjoyable this weekend. The Phillies, I don't know what it is. I think every once in a while you expect a team to go through an offensive slump. I think every once in a while, like, man, they just can't hit the broadside of a barn, right? I don't think. But what you don't like seeing from your team are defensive miscues. And Gene Segura on Saturday with his miscue with Nick Maton, where he crossed over the second base bag to try to make a play, and the ball ended up dropping down. And I believe it was the third or fourth run of the game it scored for Toronto. You're thinking that's a veteran second baseman making that play. Does he think he has to go that far over because it's a rookie shortstop, essentially? That doesn't make any damn sense. So it's just a stupid, stupid play by Gene Segura. Then he has another bad play yesterday with Chase Anderson on the mound, then doesn't go to the mound to meet with the team while Chase Anderson is taken out of the game. And then Joe Girardi, I think, and most people's conclusion that they draw from all this is that Joe Girardi didn't like it either, because you're supposed to come in, especially if you know you're taking the pitcher out. You're supposed to come in, especially if you made a mistake. Maybe you go, hey, guys, my bad, whatever it might be. It just seemed like bad baseball. And it's one of those, I don't know, unwritten rules of baseball, maybe, that Gene Segura didn't go in to talk to everybody while the pitcher was being pulled. But overall, it was just a bad brand of baseball. And even when they put up like an 8th spot yesterday, it didn't feel like maybe Odubel Herrera is near 3-run home run, maybe a foot away from doing that. Maybe that was the closest you really felt that, oh my God, they could actually win this game. But really, throughout Saturday and Sunday, this team just lost. In the field, corner outfield spots, Brad Miller, and Scott Kingery playing right field, can't get to a ball, Scotty jetpacks. Like, I expect guys to not look like starters when they're not starters and they're being thrown in to play a spot. I expect them to not look like starters, but at least look like big leaguers. At least look like guys that are supposed to be out there in the field. And right now, Kingery at the plate and in the field does not look like a big league baseball player. And he has not looked like a big league baseball player for a long time. Going back to last year and all that, he has not looked like a big leaguer. And a lot of that's on Scott Kingery, of course, and a lot of that's on the Phillies as well for bopping this guy around at every which position. But if you're Scott Kingery and you're making that money and you didn't even play an inning yet, the big league spot in the big leagues, and you're struggling this much, man, you got to get it right. And the Phillies have to give him the opportunity to get it right. Literally anybody else, because you know Scott Kingery, A, needs the minor league reps, and B, come on. At some point, you just have to give the guy a break and say, this ain't it, man. Like, give somebody else a chance, because you know Scott Kingery is not it right now. I hope that he puts it together. I hope that he works it out, but, man, not right now. So between him in right and Brad Miller in left, Gene Segura making plays that leave you scratching your head at second base, I don't know what this Phillies defense is going to do. Like I said, you could go through spells of having a bad offense, but when you have this many defensive blunders, it makes you feel like you're in Little League, and it makes you feel like I can make that play. And you know what? Some of you could. I mean, these aren't even people I'm talking about that can play at a high level. Just play Little League. Some of you can get under a fly ball. Some of you know that once that ball is popped up in the air on the shortstop side of the second baseman, guess whose ball it is? The shortstop. Anyway, it was beyond frustrating. And to see the frustration boil over in yesterday's loss, at least Joe Girardi lets you know that you're not the only people frustrated. The guys in that dugout are frustrated. That's what Joe Girardi certainly showed by going over to Gene Segura and having that conversation. Or as Jim Salisbury tried to pose it, and I think he's right, not a conversation, but a confrontation probably is the better way to describe that. But to go through some of the X's and O's of that game yesterday, if you watched Saturday's game, for instance. And you saw Aaron Nola go out there. I mean, at some point, Aaron Nola has to look like it. Like, we talked a couple of starts ago for Aaron Nola. Oh, he didn't have his best stuff, but man, he went out there and battled and gave you 6 strong innings, right? He settled in and all that. Didn't have his best stuff. And then he got walloped by Atlanta. And then he's back in this game. And it's another game where you're saying he didn't have his best stuff, but. And again, I know that the defensively speaking, guys weren't there. He gave up a monster home run to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the first inning. They go down 1-0. He allows 2 more runs in the second inning. They go down 3-0. Phillies obviously couldn't get him any offense. Also, 3 out of the 3 innings, 3 straight innings to lead off the game. They get the leadoff runner on. Can't score a run from that point on. They get another runner on in the 4th inning. Can't bring him home. Just continuous problems, but they couldn't give him any run support. Throughout that game, though, Nola, I'm waiting for that big hook to come. I'm waiting for, using the fastball to set up a curveball and all that, and the curveball just wasn't there for him on Saturday. So it was another game, and Joe Girardi even said that he didn't have his best stuff with him. But at what point are we going to talk about a guy in the ace conversation and say, well, wait a minute, you shouldn't be saying this many times he didn't have his best stuff. He should have his best stuff. On game day, Aaron Nola should have his best stuff. And when he doesn't have his curveball that he has developed into just a devastating pitch, something's not right with him. I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if he's got something in his head, but it's way too many times now. You're talking. He had JT Realmuto in this game. So you're talking about a guy that just has been so great in the past, and then all of a sudden just lose it to the point where in the last 3 starts, we're talking about, well, I didn't have his best stuff, but man, maybe next time he'll get him. It's becoming a concern now for Aaron Nola because it's not necessarily early anymore when talking about a starting pitcher, one that you had some high hopes for going into this season. The play, again, that happened with Nick Maton and Gene Segura, when the ball dropped in between the two of them, it reminded me of Odubel Herrera and Bryce Harper in right field in D.C. And then it got me thinking about when Adam Hazley had his problems reading fly balls in center field. And then it got me thinking about back in the 5th inning when Alec Boehm had a ball go under his mitt that could have led to another run, could have been out of the inning. It wasn't the case, unfortunately, but it ended up not scathing him. There are just different defensive plays. And then on Sunday, you see the same thing I just talked about with Scott Kingery and Brad Miller just not being able to play the corner outfield positions. It's just really bad baseball right now. And baseball is a weird sport, and then I think most people, they at least played Little League. So I feel like whenever they watch this bad fundamental baseball, especially on the defensive end, people look at it and go, well, I could have done that. And I think a lot of you could have made the plays the Phillies were supposed to make over the weekend. As far as Joe Girardi and that confrontation go, Jim Salisbury was all about it after the game. And Joe Girardi was asked right out of the gate pretty much about what happened between him and Gene Segura because a lot of the cameras picked up what had happened and things were starting to leak out. So here's Joe Girardi on what that issue was with Gene Segura after yesterday's game in Florida against the Toronto Blue Jays.
You can ask all you want. You got everything you're going to get about it. All right, I'm done with it.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah,
Jim and then Bob.
I know you're doing your job, but that's it.
Joe, conversation or confrontation?
Next question.
How about the optics of all this? I mean,
Next
today,
question. Next question.
I mean, from
Jimmy,
baseball.
I'm not going to talk about it, Jimmy. I'm not going to talk about it. Next question. You got a baseball question? Ask me a baseball question.
So a little testy. By the way, there'll never be a point where, if you're old enough to remember, and it feels weird even saying that, next question will always remind me of Drew Rosenhaus on T.O.'s lawn. But anyway, you can tell that he's frustrated with everything. And like I said, at least you know that the manager's feeling like you're feeling right now, frustrated at this team. But to listen to Joe Girardi talk about that, what's wrong with just giving us some goods? What's wrong with just saying the one thing? Because now our mind's going to speculate. Now our mind's going to run rampant about what Gene Segura's problem was or what the problem was in the dugout. I look, I understand you want to keep things in-house. Why not a little nugget? You come to the mound when you take the pitcher out. That's it. But Joe Girardi wasn't having it after the game. You can see how frustrated he was. Bottom line is, Phillies need to right this ship. As tough as this division is going to be, I would expect them to be able to go out and beat a team like the Blue Jays, especially when you had some pretty decent luck on your side. JT Realmuto had the opportunity to at least be a designated hitter for you on Saturday, where you were playing against an American League team in an American League ballpark, so to speak, and you were the away team against an American League team, I should say, to be more accurate. Like, you had a little divine inspiration here. You had a lot of luck on your side in just that, because he goes into this series injured, so you don't want him catching. You want to at least have the opportunity where he can at least be a DH, and they get that little bit of luck on their side, and they can't use it, especially they can't use it Saturday where they didn't score any damn runs. Then Sunday, Nick Maton, by the way, to talk about a more positive thing. Nick Maton, 2 home runs, man. Good for you. This is a bat. They got to keep it in the lineup. We've said that many times. Find a way to keep him in the lineup. Enough people have confidence in this guy that you can use him at third. You can use him at short. You can use him in the outfield. And you can give him that opportunity, and he'll cash in on it if it means keeping his bat in line. You can also use him at second base if Gene Segura can't be playing baseball anymore. Or at least maybe want to give him a break after what happened yesterday. So, look, whatever they can do to keep his bat in the lineup, he seems like the type of guy that nothing phases him. Scott Kingery, when they bebopped him around, it looked like it affected him. It looked like he was pressing at the plate when he was making mistakes in the field. Maton just seems like, yeah, whatever. He seems like a yeah, whatever type of guy. And I know that sounds like it might be a negative thing, but a yeah, whatever guy is not a guy that's intimidated. It's not a guy that's scared. It's not a guy that's going to play timid. It's a guy that's like, where do you want me to play? Yeah, I got this. Whatever you need. I love that. And hearing and at least seeing that from Nick Maton in the field is great. Seeing him do that at the plate is even better, because it shows that him moving around, defensively speaking, isn't affect anything he's doing from the dish, which is great. Coming up, we're going to talk some more Sixers basketball with our friend Tom Moore of Bucks County Courier-Times. I grew up reading Tom. We used to play basketball at the YMCA in Doylestown. Love this guy. So we're going to have a conversation with him about the 10-9-8 76ers heading into the playoffs and all things the play-in game. Also, Hall of Fame weekend. We'll get a little bit more into that in our Morning Rush segment coming up in just a little bit. And after we talk to Tom, we'll talk about our brand new sponsor to the program. So look forward to doing that as well. But right now, let me tell you about here at the Steven Singer Studios. We want to tell you about Steven Singer. You know, the competition must really hate this guy because he makes the experience of buying a diamond better and better. He makes it fun. Steven is the very first to offer the perfect price. That's right, the perfect price. You ever wondered if the guy next to you is paying more than you? You ever wonder about that? You ever think, oh, well, I have to have good negotiating skills to get a good price on this diamond? Well, guess what? You don't have to worry about that at Steven Singer Jewelers. You'll never pay more than the person sitting next to you, because guess what? The person next to you, they're also getting the perfect price. So here's what some retailers do. Here's what some jewelry stores do. They mark up a price just so that when you walk in and you try to talk them down a little bit, you feel like you won something. Not at Steven Singer. You're not going to worry about negotiating. Everybody there is paying the perfect price every single time. You're guaranteed that perfect price all day, every day, 365 days a year. That's why I trust Steven Singer and go to him for all my jewelry needs. Check out Steven Singer Jewelers at the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia, or online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price. Steven Singer Jewelers. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, before we get to our social media check-in and our new sponsor as well, before we get to our Morning Rush and our Big Bet segment, let's catch up with Tom Moore about all things NBA, Pro Basketball Hall of Fame weekend, including Jay Wright, Kobe Bryant, and the Sixers being the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Here's Tom Moore on the Zatos Investments guest line. And joining us now on the Zatos Investments guest line from the Bucks County Courier-Times, our good friend, Mr. Tom Moore, is back with us. Tom, how are you, sir?
Fine, Mark. I am in Central Bucks, where your old stomping grounds as we speak.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my old stomping ground. You still set the records. Your banner's still up there at the YMCA for the pickup games that we used to rock out in. Tom, speaking of rocking out, real quick, this weekend was an incredible weekend for the NBA, for professional basketball in general. Jay Wright Hall of Fame, an amazing induction speech for Kobe Bryant by both Vanessa and also Michael Jordan as well. But I know you're working on a piece that's just came out this morning on Jay Wright.
Yeah, just kind of, I talked to his best friend, Mike Mikulski, just talking about, growing up in Churchville, Council Rock School District, and, how he was successful then and how he was convincing people to do things then, kind of like recruiting. One story Mikulski told me that I really liked was when they would play hoops at Jay's driveway, if you missed it wrong, it would roll down the hill and you'd have to chase after it. Well, Jay somehow convinced Mike that it was always Mike's job to go get it. I said, so he's recruiting already. He was already convincing somebody to do something,
Yeah, I remember those driveways. Everybody had that one friend that had that driveway.
Exactly. And it would roll and it would keep going and going and going.
Yeah, the trick was to always make sure you didn't play at the house, that if you hit it off the rim wrong, it went into the other neighbor's backyard or the neighbor's yard, and they weren't nice neighbors. So you always had to be careful of that as well.
There was always one neighbor, you're right, and it always ended up there, and nobody wanted to get it, and it was the only ball.
It's just a graveyard of old basketballs in that yard.
Yeah, right.
Tom, I wanted to ask you as well. I mean, you've been covering this team for a long time. Just the second time, I believe, in your tenure, you were telling me that the Sixers have clinched the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Correct. I started covering the team in 1988-89. This is the 33rd season. And the only other time they won, the top seed was 2001 when they went to the finals. Now, they won the Atlantic Division in 89-90 with Barkley and Mahorn, Hersey Hawkins, and so on, but they were not the top seed in the East. Before that, it goes back to 82-83 when they won the title. So in a span of 44 years, this is the third time they've been the #1 seed. So this is not a regular occurrence. This is a big deal. And if you look in 82-83, they won the championship, and 2000-2001, they went to the finals. So having that home court, they won a pair of game sevens, in South Philly in 01 on the way, to the finals. It can really be a significant, a difference maker.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've been talking to a lot of the fans about their expectations for this season. And really, is it finals? Is it finals or nothing? Is it conference finals or nothing? But what are your expectations, Tom Moore, of this 76ers basketball team before we even play the play-in games, before the playoffs even start? What's your expectation?
Well, the way everything's fallen, with Miami not, Miami finishing 6th. I mean, I would think if they don't make the conference finals, it would be a disappointment. If you get the winner of the Hawks and the Knicks, no disrespect to any of those teams, but those teams are not proven playoff teams. Those are teams in this spot new, a lot of guys who haven't been there before. The Sixers have home court. They have the best home court record in the conference. And this way, to get to the finals, you would only have to pay either the Bucks or the Nets or the Heat, one of those teams. It could have been two of those teams. So I would think, barring an injury to one of the key guys, really one of the big two, probably, maybe big three with Tobias Harris, you would think everything seems to be aligned, and they're going to have almost a whole week off until they start next, on Saturday or Sunday. So they're going to have, some time to practice and get rest and so on. So everything does seem to be kind of really falling in line the way the Sixers, would like it to.
Right now, and I know Tyrese Maxey is coming off one heck of a game, 30 points as he got the start last night against the Magic to round out the season. I don't think that these are audition minutes for anybody on the Sixers. I think the rotation is set at this point. First off, do you agree with that? Do you think Maxey's trying to play as well onto the roster? Do you think Doc Rivers is thinking of it that way?
I think Maxey's a situational player that, against a certain team, depending on the matchup, and if the Sixers maybe are struggling to get to the rim or not being aggressive, going to the basket and so on, they need a spark. Maxey's a guy. It's just tough when you're a rookie, unless you're a really elite player. If it's like George Hill or Tyrese Maxey, George Hill has 127 playoff games. Coaches like going with guys. He's won championships. It's hard going with unproven guys. And rarely do players, people were saying like he should play Paul Reed. And I think Paul Reed's got a bright future, but to think he's going to throw a guy in for regular minutes, even though, he was the MVP of the G League and, he certainly seems to do a lot of things well and has a bright future. He's going to go with Mike Scott or, whatever, typically. And that is usually the case. Now that he's got a shot, he's like the 11th man. The rotation will probably be either 9 or 10. So he's got a shot to get spot minutes, but I'd be surprised unless there's an injury to Shake Milton or George Hill or somebody, that he would get regular minutes, but I think he could get a look in certain situations.
All right. I've talked about this with a lot of people so far, and now that we're actually thinking about the playoffs in the current state, rotation goes what? Does it go after your starting five? Obviously, guys off the bench. Does it go George Hill, I think, is the obvious one to Shake, get a look. Obviously, Dwight Howard. What does the rotation look like to you coming off the bench in the playoffs?
I think the starting five, I think George Hill, I think Matisse Thybulle, and Howard for sure. Those are the 8. And then does he go 9 or 10? If he goes 10, probably Shake. And then it comes down to Korkmaz, Mike Scott, or Maxey. And Maxey probably, is going to be the sort of the last option there. Now, if you look at the regular season, Mike Scott missed 13 games with a knee injury. And in those 13 games, Doc Rivers essentially did not use a backup power forward. He had Tobias Harris was the starter, and then Simmons played the minutes at the 4 when Tobias Harris wasn't on the court. So you could easily get down to 9 guys if you don't play Mike Scott, and there are going to be no back-to-back games in the playoffs, so that shouldn't be an issue either. I could see him potentially doing that. He could take a look at Mike Scott, could be like Maxey. He could be a guy that gets a look here and there. Shake Milton's not a lock, depending on what happens. I would think he probably does. And Korkmaz is the same way. They need a shooter, but he's better defensively, but he's not a great defender. So guys could get a look, but in the playoffs, you don't play well, you could get pulled out of there in 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, right. you just can't afford, to lose give a game away in the playoffs. Even best out of 7, it's just too difficult.
It's wild to think about. I know coaching staff, and I know they got a much different roster than what they had last year, but it's just crazy to think about entering the bubble and entering postseason play in the bubble last year. We were talking about Shake Milton, the starting 5 on this team, let alone whether or not you make the rotation at all in the playoffs, which is just nuts to think about how far we've come just watching this basketball team. Tom, I do want to ask you this. So Ben Simmons is always a lightning rod of conversation, and you're there a lot asking these questions of Doc Rivers after the game. And it's like he's gotten to a point where he laughs at questions that are about Ben Simmons' offense and his scoring capability. First off, I think that Ben Simmons is well-deserving of 3 All-Star nods. I think he's well-deserving of Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's just well-deserving of any praise he gets for the great things he does on the basketball court. With all that being said, not to be a negative Nancy, but he shot 53% from the foul line post-All-Star game. Like his second half of the season, he also dipped 4 points per game from the first half of the season to the second half of the season. So is he one of the X factors offensively speaking as a scorer for this team to have a shot at making it past, let's just say, the Nets in the conference finals?
Yeah, I think, if things continue the way they're going, I would still think they'd have a really good chance, to advance to the conference finals. But eventually they're going to need him to be more of a factor on offense. They cannot afford to play 4-on-5 in the half-court offense. It's just not going to work. And those teams have figured out how to play, pack in the paint, force them to either, take a jump shot, or he just passes the ball and kind of gets out of the way. Eventually, against good teams, it's difficult to win doing that. So he's going to eventually need to be more assertive like he was at times earlier this season. You're right, more pre-All-Star break, or a few times when Embiid was out. The 42-point game, I guess, Utah, I don't expect him to be that productive that way, but more of the mentality, attack the rim. And when he goes to the rim, go at the rim, he goes to the rim, and then he kind of shoots these kind of fading away, kind of not on an angle 45-degree angle toward the rim, he kind of goes parallel, or, you know what I mean? Like you need to use your, it's a lot easier with the spin and so on if you're going at the rim than going parallel or fading away, from the bucket.
On another note, speaking with Tom Moore of Bucks County Courier Times, I read him in the Intelligencer all those years growing up in Doylestown. Tom, so let's talk about the big, not the X factor, but the factor, the process himself, Joel Embiid. I really look forward to the playoffs because the load management, as you mentioned, goes out the window. It's not a matter of playing back-to-backs and managing that situation. It's just all out, all the time, play your best and see how you do. And we'll get an opportunity here to see Joel Embiid play at that level. How excited are you to just see playoff basketball with Joel Embiid playing the level he's been at all season long?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the healthiest he's been going into the playoffs, and this is, I guess, the fourth year, if I'm not mistaken. He was last year, if you remember, he had a nagging injury, and then he had the flu. He missed a game in Brooklyn, game 3 that they won, which was the series was 1-1. They split in Philly. Had they lost that game, that could have really been. That was a good series, and it could have been a little tight, down 2-1 up there. You almost have to win to make it 2-2 and come home, so you don't have to win, 3 in a row. So yeah, I think it should, I think he physically, should be better. There's no excuse. They'll have some practices this week and so on. I think he should be ready, and he knows what's at stake, and I think he really wants to be the guy, and he's going to get a chance to do it.
You mentioned how long you've been covering this team. Where does this team rank in terms of just enjoyable teams that you've covered, exciting teams that you've covered in your time covering the 76ers?
Yeah, it's certainly up there. I mean, the 2000-2001, team was Iverson and, a bunch of blue collar guys, Aaron McKee and Tyrone Hill and, Eric
Lynch.
Snow,
Yeah.
George Lynch, exactly. Mutombo came in at the trade deadline in February. The 89-90 team was fun with Barkley and Hawkins and so on, Mahorn. I mean, this is a very deep, team, potentially deep team. I think George Hill is essentially going to share a job with Seth Curry. My guess is they'll both play about half the game because, he's bigger. He's got so much experience. He's a good defender. I think this is a time when he can help just by sort of being solid and reliable. And that's what you want. You don't want the guys that are going to be great one day and terrible the next day. That, and you need guys who you can count on. That's why coaches like guys like that who have a track record, who've shown, what they can do. They've done it, and the moment's not going to be too big for them. And, Tobias Harris, I'm interested to see, can he be a late game guy, in the playoffs? He's never had to do that. He's never done that. Can he be, guy to take the shot with the game on the line if need be in a, game 5 against the Nets when it's 2-2 or whatever, and I think, we're going to find out a lot about this team, in the next 6 weeks.
It's been a joy to watch Tobias Harris this year and get back to the numbers that he had that were similar to what he put up under Doc Rivers while he was a member of the Clippers. Right. What has been the secret there? Has it been his movement away from the ball? What has been the secret in getting Tobias Harris going again?
I think the big thing is, as Doc Rivers said, he doesn't want him to be a dancer. He needs to, he needs just to go, not think, attack, drive to the basket, whatever he's going to do it right away. Don't dribble left, dribble right, and wait, James Harden style. That's not who he is. I think Rivers has maximized him. He drives left a lot more than he did under Brett Brown, which is his strong hand. I just think it's a mentality, and I think he occasionally gets away from it. And I think Rivers reminds him, look, you need to go from here to here and, get there, and if you have a shot, take it. If not, get rid of it, but do something. Don't hold the ball and dribble and clear out, whatever. He needs to make it happen, right away.
I asked you about the Hall of Fame, and I asked you about Jay Wright, obviously, but I want to mention it again, Kobe Bryant, and you covered that team 2001, the finals. When you think back to that series and you think about Kobe Bryant, what's the first thing that jumps out to you about covering that series 20 years ago?
I guess it was after game 2, I want to say, where the Sixers won game 1 in overtime and almost won game 2 out in LA. And Iverson and Kobe were jawing, like, coming off the court. I think it was kind of like, I think Iverson was kind of saying, look, you're coming to Philly now. And I think Kobe was like, Philly doesn't scare us. You know, I don't know if he said we're going to win 3 in a row like the Lakers did, but I think it was kind of like, you know, that's not a problem for us. We won the title last year. We're going to win the title this year. We're going to win the title next year. Yeah, just complete fearlessness and wanting to be like the alpha guy, the guy, you know, give me the ball and I don't care who's open. You can double or triple me. I'm going to take it, you know, and live with it, whether you make it or you miss it. And, you know, he always was willing to take it. And there's a lot of guys that shrink from that spot, and he never did.
Do you have a look, it's a first round matchup no matter what happens after the play-in game there, or the play-in tournament, I should say. You're going to face an 8 seed anyway. But
Yes.
Do you have a preference when you go to the Hornets, Pacers, Wizards, or Celtics?
Not really. I mean, the Celtics, you know, for a while you were kind of like, are they going to get their act together? But I think they're just so far gone. And with Jaylen Brown hurt, I just don't think that team is, you know, formidable. Washington's interesting. You know, I think Washington could be an interesting team. I mean, certainly a team the Sixers should beat, but it could be a fun series. Bradley Beal, if you remember, he put up 60 here. You know, and that's a team that came on and played pretty good hoops. The Hornets, I don't think any of those teams, you know, you shouldn't be. I mean, they could win a game, you know, it could make it interesting, could be competitive other games. But I don't think there's anyone, you know, like if Miami had somehow slipped into that mix or whatever, I would say, you know, even still, you know, I don't want that team. And the Sixers can say what they want, but that's not a team that, you know, going to the finals this year, having the core back, having a really good coach in Spoelstra. You know, after Thursday night, I thought, boy, there's a pretty good chance they're going to be 4 or 5, and they're going to win, whether they play the Hawks or the Knicks in that first round. And then it's going to be a best of 7 with the Sixers, and it's going to be really interesting with Butler and, you know, Adebayo and all the bench. But it did not happen. So as I said, it's fallen right for the Sixers, and, you know, everything seems to be in line, in place, you know, for them to make the conference. And that's the other thing. I've covered the team for 33 years. I've only covered one team that's made it past the second round. No other team.
Yeah.
All those, all those Barkley teams lost in the second round to Jordan or whoever.
Wow.
You know, they lost to the Celtics a few years ago in the second round. The Raptors, obviously, 2 years ago. And only the 01 team, you know, made the finals. And ironically, I was invited to a wedding, my wife and I, in Oakland, California, in 2001. It is the only Memorial Day weekend in 33 years 32, let's say, not count, that I couldn't have made it, and I didn't make it that year. Like, what are the odds? I think it was just taunting me to invite me. You know, like, it ensured that they were going to go to the conference finals that year, and then the finals.
Does the missus still hanging over your head? Like, we could have gone to that wedding.
Yeah, it was a buddy of a former coworker of mine. It would have been fun to go, but, like, you know, just one of those things you kind of kept updating. Like, all right, they beat the Pacers. Now they beat the Raptors. Now we're in the conference finals. Now it looks like, you know, and sure enough, we didn't get to go.
Send a nice gift. That's all you can do.
I did. Good dude.
Yeah, awesome. Tom Moore, Bucks County Courier-Times. Always great talking to you, man. I know we'll talk to you again at the playoffs at some point. I look forward to that. But check out his article. It just dropped, as we like to say. Check it out wherever you consume the content that is the Bucks County Courier-Times. Tom Moore on Jay Wright and his Hall of Fame induction. And also make sure you follow Tom on Twitter for all his Sixers content and other things you write about the Eagles as well, and everything for Bucks County Courier-Times. Tom Moore, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it.
On Twitter, at Tom Moore Philly.
At Tom Moore Philly. You got it. Tom Moore
Thanks,
joining
Marc.
us here. Absolutely. Thank you. Tom Moore joining us here on the Zatos Investments guest line. Perfect. You're the man.
All right. Thank you.
My thanks to Tom Moore for joining the show. And yes, definitely check out his article on Hall of Fame coach Jay Wright. It's up there on his Twitter right now if you guys want to check that out a little bit later today. Before we get into our social media check-in and our morning rush and our big bet segment, let me tell you about one of our brand new sponsors here at the Farzy Show. You saw me chowing down on some of their popcorn just last week. It was fantastic. I wouldn't tell you if it wasn't. It was awesome. And that is the brand new popcorn, the Fiery Hot Fire Roasted Sweet Corn from Hers Snacks. Oh, it's good to have Hers on board. I got to tell you, was watching a movie over the weekend, a little late night. I don't really like sleep. And I'm sitting there on the sofa, and I'm like, I need a snack. What can I go to? I have that bag of Hers, and absolutely delicious. This is what's so good about it. It has all the great flavor of Hers fire roasted sweet corn that you've had before, but now it's got a little spice to it. It's got a little kick to it, as some would say. Nice touch of spice, savory, creamy butter taste, the sweetness of the corn. It's like the perfect bite of grilled corn in every single bite that you take. It's just that good. Perfect bite, every bite. Hers Fiery Hot Fire Roasted Sweet Corn, a must-have for the beach this summer, barbecues, or just snacking around the house like me, watching the game, watching the some postseason basketball. Oh my goodness, so good! You got to get this Fiery Hot Fire Roasted Sweet Corn, sure to kick up your snack shelf to the next level. So make sure you enjoy it. Hers new Fiery Hot Fire Roasted Sweet Corn. It is fantastic. Literally, you saw me have it for the first time live on the show. It was absolutely delicious. Now let me tell you about our friends over there at PHLSportsNation.com, PhiladelphiaSportsNation.com. Check out all the amazing things they're doing to follow Philadelphia sports across blogs and social media. A local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. How about our good friends at FanUp? Hopefully you had some fun challenging some of your friends on the FanUp app. Download the FanUp app in the App Store, and you get 2,000 bonus points right out of the gate when you use promo code FANUP. It's the only site where you can win cash. You can win points. You can rise on their leaderboard and win great brand prizes, memorabilia, merchandise. You can win a Peloton bike. You can win a Louis Vuitton bag. So much great. A pair of Jordans they gave away not too long ago. Download the FanUp app right now and let the best fan win, because the days of playing fantasy sports alone are over. Enter FanUp super fun daily and weekly contests, answer fun questions, and rise on their leaderboard. Squad up with your friends and win even more. It's fun and it's easy. And like I said, the only place to win cash. You will rise on the leaderboard with points, and you can also win some great brand prizes all day, any week, any season. You could be the real MVP with FanUp. Download the FanUp app in the App Store. Use promo code FANUP. Get 2,000 bonus points. That's FanUp. May the best fan win. And how about Steak and Maine? I'll be hanging out with those guys a week from today, as a matter of fact, in South Philadelphia. They got a big event going on. We're going to do a Farzy in the Field event from there. Steak and Maine. Fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland, whether you dine in a more upscale steakhouse, casual bar and patio, or enjoy high quality steaks, seafood, oyster bar, everything right there. Freshly prepared sushi. Steak and Maine has it all. All that and an extensive wine list, including Cavada Cellars wines. My man, Tony Cavada of Steak and Maine, from his family to yours, right at the table at Steak and Maine. Open every day for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Steak and Maine in the heart of Northeast Maryland, voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. Check them out right now for yourself at steakandmaine.com. All right, without further ado, let's get into the morning rush. Hold on. Sorry. Social media check-in. How do I forget about everyone that wants to chime in on the program here on YouTube, for instance? Right now, let's get into 5 across. 5 across your lips. You sound dangerous. Welcome in. It's the first time I'm seeing your comment. Great show, Mr. Farzetta. Great show, Mr. 5 across your lips. Or Mrs. I don't know. Or Miss. I don't know. But welcome to the show. Dan Schwartz, as per usual, a lot of stuff. He's excited for the full capacity crowds for the Sixers playoffs, as am I, including Tom McGinnis. They rise at the Wells Fargo Center. Like, I can't wait for that either. I can't wait to hear that. Tom never played on the Globetrotters, Dan's also saying. Tom never played on the Globetrotters, unlike I did. In case you missed it, I played for the Harlem Globetrotters for 1 game. Was I part of a media promotional tour? You know what? Facts are stupid. And yeah, I played for them. I scored a bucket. No big deal, right there. Yeah, we all know the defense that's played in those games, and I got my 2 points. People still try to blame Mike Sealski for any shortcomings to Philadelphia sports. Come on, people, get over it. Mike's just being honest with you. Mally's checking in, saying good morning. Gene Segura needs to go. Some people saying that. I want to jump to that just yet, but here's what I do hope happens. I hope that the Phillies, first and foremost, I hope that the Phillies don't waste Vince Velasquez starts, especially in moments when he's pitching well. I hope Gene Segura learns how to play defense, so that'd be nice. And I hope he keeps hitting at the plate. I hope he hits at the plate. So let's hope all that falls into place at some point, because in baseball, it's just like everything in life. It's all about timing, Beb. It's all about timing. You don't get timely hitting in baseball, it's just a waste. You don't get a lot of hitting in baseball with some decent pitching, you ain't gonna win. And that's pretty much a good example of what happened on Saturday. You get some of those runs you scored on Sunday. You get some of that offense that was popping for you late in the game on Sunday. Maybe Aaron Nola's not walking off the hill with a loss. Maybe, huh? Yeah, let's cross our fingers for that. And hopefully that's what happens in the not too distant future. That was our don't want to ignore this. As we continue our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. I think a bunch of you are liars. That's right. I said it. I called you out. A bunch of you are liars. Here's the question we threw out on social media. Is the second round where the playoffs start, considering the Sixers' recent history? Here's your options. Play who's in front of you. Second round is the starting line. I don't give a you-know-what. It's Eastern Conference Finals or bust. No finals, get lost. 56% of you say you play who's in front of you. Well, congratulations. It must be only Sixers basketball players that are voting on this poll, because those are the only people that should be thinking about play who's in front of you, are the people that are actually participating in the game itself. As fans, you mean to tell me they win the first round, you're going to be like, yeah, they did it. All right. They're a 1 seed, folks. It's okay to have higher expectations as fans. Not as players. As players, did I not play for you Doc Rivers earlier? Saying you can't buy into the hype, don't listen to it. So, yeah, don't listen to me. Don't listen to you. When it comes to the team trying to exceed expectations. Expectations for me, Eastern Conference Finals. Anything short of that is a horribly disappointing season. Yes, players in front of you. Fans, you can have greater expectations than just winning a first-round playoff series. I would certainly, that's actually pessimistic. To just be like, just get out of the first round. Although I do enjoy the players' mentality that a lot of Philadelphia fans have. You got to say that. So right now, running away with it is play who's in front of you with 58% of the vote. Second round starting line is at 10%. And then Eastern Conference Finals or NBA Finals or bust both have 16% of the vote. Thank you for everybody that chimed in there on our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Let's get into our Morning Rush segment brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. I mentioned at the start of the show, one of the optimistic things, Devontae Smith looking slick, looking silky smooth out there at the NovaCare Complex. Good for him. Getting his first practice under his belt as rookie camp was underway over the weekend. Nick Sirianni, and this is probably the best thing, Nick Sirianni said he just wants everyone to get 1% better every day. I love that mentality. Like, just get better every day. That's all. It's 1%. That's it. That's all it needs. That's all it takes to be just a little bit better for tomorrow. All right. I like that idea. I love that idea. I also like the idea of Devontae Smith running those crisp routes and Nick Sirianni saying afterwards that he was just as good as advertised. So no disappointments through the first little run of rookie camp for the Philadelphia Eagles. You love to see it, as they say. And I will say, watching the highlights that people were posted and some of the stuff on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Look, what can you tell from rookie camp? It's not even a preseason game. And you know how little we think of preseason football, but it's not even a preseason game where you can just tell whether or not a guy belonged. But here's one thing I think you can tell, and that's just being professional. And it looked like a guy that was attacking being a pro. The college stuff behind him, the amateur stuff behind him. Being a pro, it looked like he was attacking routes. Look, this is grasping at straws, but it might sound like grasping at straws, but just when you watch it, you just look like a guy who looks like he's been there before. And that's all right. All right, that's the most you could take out of it. It's next to nothing is what it is. But anyway, it's just good to see a rookie out there and just doing his thing and no hold up. So that's good. Something else here. Corey Clement signs with the New York Giants. Giants had a busy weekend. Kelvin Benjamin is a New York Giant now as a tight end. So that's interesting. Two tight ends that I didn't think were going to be in the NFL were Tim Tebow and Kelvin Benjamin, because now they're both tight ends. But here we go. But the Giants signed Corey Clement. No longer an Eagle. Goes to a division rival. I don't think we'll ever forget his touchdown in the Super Bowl. I don't think we'll forget any of his 4 receptions for 100 yards in the Super Bowl. A guy that I really liked rooting for. I think the injury bug got in the way of him over the last 2 years here in Philadelphia, but I wish him nothing but success. Unfortunately, I wish him personal success. I don't wish the Giants success. But Corey Clement, we'll all remember the rookie year that he had here, a great rookie year, playing behind guys like LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi, and going in and having the game that he had receiving-wise for the Eagles as a running back out of the backfield was great. So Corey Clement, now a New York Giant, but thanks for your time here in Philadelphia, Corey Clement. One last thing I wanted to get to today. I know that crime in Philadelphia hasn't exactly been low, but I got a screen grab sent to me last night. Somebody was carrying a sword around Brewery Town last night. Did anybody else see this? A sword. Not like a machete, not like a knife, a sword. That's the world we live in now, folks. That's the world we live in now. All right. That was our morning rush segment brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Let's wrap it up here with our big bets and our big bet segment. I told you going into the weekend, DraftKings, of course, brings us our big bet segment. I told you going into the weekend, I was going to see what was going to happen with the Sixers, obviously playing the Orlando Magic to try to wrap up the number 1 seed. They actually were at a minus 14.5, not a minus 15, minus 14.5 on Friday. They ended up locking that up. They covered. Good for them. Good for me. Good for you. Hopefully you took advantage of that as well. And you want a couple of bucks for yourself, courtesy of DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook. The other game, Sunday, yesterday's game, Sixers again against the Orlando Magic. You pretty much knew that none of the starters were going to play in that game. The line, I believe, going in that game was minus 6.5. Sixers still being favored. They covered that one, thanks very much, due to the play of Tyrese Maxey and the 30 points he was able to get you. And how about this? B-Ball Paul creating for himself in that game. So that was a great game to see. Now, I'll be looking forward to what's going to be happening in Tuesday's games, tomorrow's games, because here's the matchups once again that you have. You have the Hornets versus the Pacers. Actually, I think I have this for you here, if you can make this out. This is for the NBA playoffs, including the play-in rounds. You have the Hornets and the Pacers going off. Hornets are a 10 seed. Pacers are a 9 seed, so they're just eking their way in thanks to the play-in tournament, obviously, with the 9 and 10 seeds that you normally don't have. But those guys will be facing off against each other on Tuesday at 6:30. And then Tuesday later games, 9 p.m., the Wizards take on Boston. Wizards are an 8 seed taking on the Boston Celtics, the 7 seed. I am hoping and crossing my fingers that they actually do end up facing the Celtics. The Sixers end up facing the Celtics just to blow them out of the water as fast as humanly possible, because y'all know how much I hate the Celtics. So let's see how that plays out. But it's going to be it's going to feel like forever between now and Saturday, when the Sixers will most likely get back underway. So we'll see how all that plays out from now till the end of the season. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For those downloading the podcast, appreciate you listening. For those watching on YouTube, always appreciate it. And make sure you chime in whenever you can on our comments, and we'll try to get to you throughout the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Personal announcement. I'm going to be on Fox 29 later today, 7:45 with Alex and Mike, talking about basically everything we just kicked around today, all the things that happened with the Phillies, the Sixers, Eagles, rookie camp, all that and more. We're going to get to that with around 7:45 today with Alex Holly and Mike Jarek on Fox 29. My thanks to Jim Hyden, who produced the program. My thanks to Buzz Sports and Entertainment. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. I'm Marc Farzetta. We'll be back with you guys on a fine Tuesday morning as Hugh Douglas will join the show to talk about all the things Nick Sirianni got to over the weekend and all the things that goes on at rookie camp. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Take it easy.